Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside NDF, where we interview those movers and shakers in the dance industry that help us to fulfill our mission of kindness, inclusion, and community. And today we are so happy to have another one with us, Aaron Pompa. So we are so excited. I got to meet you last year when you were also presenting at the UDMA seminars again doing this year. We're so happy about that. But to start out, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, Kathy, thank you for having me. You are such an awesome person, and I am so honored that I get to work alongside of you, and I'm so grateful to be here. So, my name is Aaron Pompa, and I grew up in Patterson, New Jersey, which is the hood. And, during that time, it was like the 90s, there were only two high schools and they had gang violence. So my mother put me in dance at an early age because they opened a performing arts high school and she wanted me to go there because it was the safest school in our town, our city. So I get into that high school and that's where I fall in love with dance. And I go on to go to college. I go to Marymount Manhattan my first year. I didn't do well in that school. I learned that I didn't have the technique that I needed to feel competitive at that school. So I transferred to Montclair State, which was amazing for me because it was a smaller learning community. And I really got to get one-on-one attention, which I really needed. And from there, in the pedagogy classes, the one of the teachers would be like, this is, how you teach our youth. And we would make lesson plans and curriculum. And I was like, I hate this. I want to be a star. Why am I in this stupid pedagogy dance class? And then I graduate college and my parents are like, you need to get a job. And this was after hitting the grind of the circuit of auditioning. So actually, the job opened up at the high school I went to, the dance teacher position. And I took it begrudgingly, but I needed to. And I fell in love with those kids. I fell in love with the dance program. And it turned in to be my mission to make those kids coming from economic situations able to have phenomenal dance training so that they can compete in getting into the colleges and into the industry the way they wanted. And I grew the program to a great success. I was there for 14 years. And then year 10, I said to myself, I've known dance. I got my master's in dance education from NYU. I've been dancing my whole entire life. Who else am I? What else can I do? And it was a long journey, but I figured out that I really enjoyed speaking to our youth about navigating fear and strengthening resilience. And within that, then other things came. I speak to dance educators about how to be more resilient and how to make more committed students. I teach dance workshops through compositional studies on how to overcome negative thoughts. Like it has branched out to so many things. And I think the most interesting thing is when I left the dance classroom, I thought I had to separate from it. And I've learned that dance is a part of it. And I get to include my dance knowledge and my love of composition into sharing. So that's who I am.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And we know we've gotten a lot of feedback from those who have attended the UDMA conferences who love exactly what you're presenting. What's nice about you is you work with students and with teachers. So
Mhm.
why is it so important to educate teachers today? Why is that important to you?
It's important to me because I want to help those that want to really reach their students on a human level, not just a technical level. Right. And I'm not putting anything, I don't think those are bad educators. That's just not my philosophy. So if someone's like, I want to educate the whole dancer, those are my kind of people. And it's also important that as dance educators, we care for ourselves. And I know firsthand how we can get wrapped up, whether it's in a studio or in a K through 12 setting, in creating and making the best program we can for our kids. But what about us? So that's why it's important for me. I don't feel like I was like, this is what I want to talk about. I kind of got led to talk about this stuff.
Well, you talk about it very well. And
Thank you.
that's one of the nicest things. So that's important, like you say, because teachers, you're creating, you're giving, everything is going out to give something back. But now when you take your message and you talk to students, it's obviously very different. So, what is it that you talk about when you're educating your students? What do you hope for them to take away?
Yeah, so my whole I would think of it as the top of the triangle. Everything I talk about is overcoming negative thoughts through acceptance, gratitude, being a good human, which I call service, through a perspective shift. When I do it to colleges and to high schools, yeah, I incorporate some movement if it's the lower grade, but I don't incorporate as much movement. When I go into dance studios, it's actually compositional work. Like we deconstruct how they're feeling through writing, and we turn it into compositional phrases using compositional structures and devices, because my goal is to teach them the freedom of knowing how to use compositional structures and devices and not being afraid of improvisation, because that's freedom, and then also be able to articulate their inner feelings through writing and speaking. So by the whole end of the entire process, they leave with an understanding of composition, they leave with an understanding of what they're feeling inside, and they leave with a framework that is delivered in movement and writing and through verbal of how to process those negative emotions that they're having. I'm not good enough. Why is she in the front? I'm too fat. This is stressing me out. I'm not worthy. Okay, those are normal, but what do we do with them? So I teach them how to move through it and how to work through it in the system.
I mean, and that is an amazing challenge in itself because those are things that stay with us our entire life. So if you
Mhm.
can learn some adaptive measures younger in a dance class, you can always use them later on. So if I understand correctly, you really help them through movement and through writing. They need to be able to verbally express as much as movement expression.
One thing that I was really an advocate for or hard on my students with was if they came up, I taught composition at my school as well for my students. And if they came up to present a study, they had to stand in front of the room, poised, shoulders back, and articulate their thoughts and their ideas about what they are doing. It is so important as a human and as a dancer to be confident in your voice and be able to articulate what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and what you're doing. So that is why, yes, during those things, I want them to talk. I'm not going to let them say, I don't know what, I don't know. You do know. What is in your mind? What are you thinking? What are you doing? What are you feeling? Your voice matters.
That is amazing because I agree. Just because you're in a dance class, you still do need to be able to articulate. And again, that's a life lesson, something
Mhm.
that they can carry on. You know, with National Dance Foundation and National Dance Week, one of the things that we found that just because you have the biggest love to dance doesn't necessarily mean you are the best dancer. We have essay and poster contests and the artists and the way some of these young people express themselves through words, I agree with you. It's
Mhm.
amazing how much they articulate.
Yeah.
So very exciting. Now, you presented last year at the
Mhm.
UDMA shows, and you're coming back this year. So tell us a little bit about what your experience was then and what you're kind of thinking of doing now.
Well, it was my first time at UDMA, and I was so excited, especially because I got to do the New Jersey one too, and I'm from Jersey, and it was just a beautiful experience. And I found that the people that were in my seminars were open and hungry to have these kinds of conversations, because again, being a studio owner or a K through 12 dance educator is very isolating. As a studio owner, you're working, your head is down. As a K through 12 educator, you're usually the only dance teacher in your building. So to have this forum where you can talk, deconstruct ideas, give input is beautiful. And what I loved about it, it wasn't me just standing up telling them what to do. It was an exchange of ideas and of energy. And I explained to them, like, I am only here because some of the people in the room have been teaching and know more than I know. So I'm not there to tell them what to do. I'm there to offer them a perspective. And they gave me a perspective in exchange. So last year I talked about building artistic resilience, which was all about how to combat those negative thoughts, negative feelings that arise when we're running dance classes and dance programs. How are we caring for ourselves? How do we set boundaries? Right? What do we need to do? Because a lot of times that is forgotten about. and that is not a priority. So it's like the same message I talked about with youth, but through a different lens, because we all still go through it. And the second thing I'm talking about that I talked about last year was empowering your students to take ownership in the classroom and studio. I'm an advocate of that. I listen. I it was the kind of teacher who did not like to coddle students. I'm not gonna let you run the house. Like, you're taking ownership. Like, what does that mean? And it could mean ownership as far as classroom management strategies. It can mean ownership as far as letting students understand how to take the lead in a class sometimes. It depends, but how do we turn more of the ownership over to the students? How do we set boundaries and let them set boundaries so that it's a safe and comfortable environment? So that is what I talked about last year. And I think I'm talking about that again this year, but I have another idea, Kathy, that I wanted to email you about.
I love But I love the energy, and I love this thing about taking ownership because when you're in, and I'm coming from being a dance teacher myself. Sometimes you just run into the mindset of being controlling your whole dance room, and
Mhm.
that's just it. How are teachers responding to the concept of really enforcing ownership to their students? I'm sure they're loving it. Are they scared? What are they feeling? Are they doing it? What kind of feedback have you been getting?
I think it's interesting because I shared the story of, like, I when I first started teaching, like, I am very bubbly and very outgoing, but I was like iron fist. Like, no, you're not gonna be late to my class. This is what we do. And as the years went on, I had to learn how to do it in a more loving way. So the feedback I got, some people were like the iron fist, and some were totally like laid back and were nervous to set boundaries. So what they really were struggling with, which I did in my younger teaching years, was finding that middle ground. How to set the
Yes.
boundaries with the students, with the parents was a big deal. And of course, it's a big deal because parents in a studio setting are paying you. So, how do you set boundaries and still keep your revenue stream up? So, those are the things. And I don't have a concrete answer, but we were brainstorming ideas and there were other people giving ideas. And it was just this open forum of dialogue that was refreshing because this is all things that are in their mind that they don't have an opportunity to express and talk about.
That's an amazing topic in itself. How to keep your boundaries and keep your revenue stream up at the same time, because it is a fine line. It's a difficult balancing line. So it really allows for situations like that you enable them to have where everybody could talk about something. Like you say, everybody has a little something different that they can bring to the table. And
Right.
that really makes a difference because they are paying you. The bottom
Mhm.
line is they're paying you to come there. So they're the customer, but yet you
Right.
need to maintain that balance. That's
Exactly.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And I know you're kind of just starting out to really expand bigger into the dance circuit. That's why UDMA was so happy to get you before you're sucked away.
I
And
am so honored. Anytime you ask me to come, I'll come. I love being there. It was such a great feeling, a great energy, just walking around and seeing all the presenters, and then I walked into the room with all of the things set up. What are they with, like,
so, yep.
I was like, what? I've never been to anything like this for dance. And it was just so nice. It was very good energy and experience.
I know it was, and UDMA is the creator and the founder of National Dance Week, which has grown into National Dance Foundation. And I know that it kind of aligns a little bit with yours. So, National Dance Foundation's mission is kindness, inclusion, and community, which we talk about being hashtag KIC. When
Mhm.
I say that that's the mission, what does that mean to you, or what does that bring out to you?
Bring out to me as far as life and my philosophy.
With the dance world, yeah,
Yeah. So you said kindness, inclusion.
and community.
I mean, everything. You know what I
Every-
mean?
I know.
I mean, you
We
know,
because we even try to incorporate special needs
mhm.
students in all of our activities. So when
Well,
you think of that, why would you encourage um, when you're out there mentoring? Why would you encourage others to really present that kindness, inclusion, in a community?
Well, I'll tell you a story really quick. I was a high school dance teacher. There was this kid who used to sit in the back of my class. He had cerebral palsy. He would just sit there all the time, watch my dance class, and we had dance majors. Then one day he came up to me and said, "Can I be a dancer in a minor?" I didn't take minors. I said, "Yeah, you could be a minor." I said, "You're gonna have to audition," and I said, I'll make modification." At that time, I didn't even know how to make modifications. I said, "I'm gonna work." I said, "I'm gonna work you as hard as I work them." Right. And this young man went through my program. He was like amazing. He still has dance companies for kids with special needs till this day. So
Wow.
inclusion is so important. Inclusion is everything because what if I said no to him? What if I didn't give him an opportunity? Me saying yes gave him the ability to set a page in the book for the rest of his life. So inclusion is so deep in my heart, even as a Black dancer, seeing more dancers of color. You know, when I first went to Marymount Manhattan, it was one of the biggest transitions for me because it was the 90s. There were not a lot of dancers of color there. That is hard. So when I say inclusion, how can you invite more in body images, special needs, color into what you are doing and what you're exposing your kids to? And I understand that depending on where you live, the demographic, you might not have to be able to make it multicultural, but you could still take your kids to go see work that is. Right. So that is what inclusion is, exposing students and our youth to all types of movement, all types of body around us. There's companies that have all dancers with special needs. You could take your students to see that. Like there, so I think it's so important because a lot of times, you know, students could get stuck in like the one way of thinking of what their dance career means, and that's not it. Like it could be so many different things. So it's our job as educators, this is what I believe, to open their mind. And that's what inclusion is. It's not
And
just teaching.
it's because you hit on a nice point there. They get so focused. Sometimes they're not even going to have a career. It's just winning the dance competition,
Yeah.
getting that platinum, bringing that platinum home. And when you start to expand out like yourself, now you just talked about this young man. It changed his life,
Mhm.
a memory for you. That's amazing. And anybody around him in the class. Every time you take a special needs dancers, like we bring them to perform at NBA pre-game
I love
performances.
it.
The first time we did it in Chicago, I mean, everybody was crying, and we had 100 people on the court. 30 of them were special needs dancers,
I
and
love
we
that.
did with it. It was amazing. The teachers are crying. The parents that didn't even
Mhm.
know that school because they were multiple schools together. The people who paid the money to sit in the big expensive seats were crying. It affects. It's a ripple effect.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And it doesn't even, or if one day in your studio having an inclusion day where like maybe your senior dancers are allowed to, I don't know, I don't know, the kids are allowed to come in and they're allowed to like move with them. I don't know, but the possibility is so big.
well, it's funny that you say that because during National Dance Week, which was in April, but now everybody found April just too busy. So after
Mhm.
30 years, we're changing it to October. So
Oh,
you can
wow.
start out your dance year in a fun, positive way. That is exactly what we encourage people to do. That's a great time. Bring a friend to class, do a special needs program, do
Mhm.
something different that
Mhm.
stretches out to the community. So exactly what you were saying is
Right.
something that we try to promote. So we'll be in New Jersey this year for National Dance Week, which is going to be October 4th through 13th of 2024. So it's kind of exciting. So
I love that. Wait, and then I heard a story. I don't know if you know this story. I heard it yesterday on TikTok. You know, Debbie Allen knew Patrick Swayze's mom. I knew that loosely. So she told a story on TikTok about, you know, it was a time when, you know, she didn't have a lot of money and dance wasn't exposed in her community. So she's standing outside of Patrick Swayze's mom's studio and she's like, Patrick Swayze's mom's like, you have shoes, you have clothes, you want to dance? And she gave her opportunity. Now I know that you can't go around giving everybody scholarships here or there, but think about the impact that Debbie Allen has made on the dance community, and she's able to do that because Patrick Swayze's mom was inclusive. Like,
and that's important. And that was important for the time, very
mhm,
important for the time. And it's funny that you say that because to do certain things, National Dance Foundation tries special needs dancers scholarships and help them out because those are families that are already battling so many things
Right.
that you have to give people a chance to dance. I love that story. That is
Yeah.
just wonderful.
I
I
never
love
heard of,
I love Debbie Allen. I mean, love her. You watch
yeah.
years, she's one of my favorite.
Mhm.
I think I tried to tie my shirt around my waist like TV shows she had and with the leg warmers. She was always just the coolest. So
She's so
yeah.
cool. Yeah. And then you said, so that was inclusion and then kindness. I mean, I think it's important that we teach our students, our youth, our parents how to be good humans. And we don't have to do it perfectly because nobody's walking around here perfect. We will get attitudes, we will mess up, but we
Have
teach them.
bad
Would you
days.
say?
We do have bad days sometimes.
Everybody does. That's not the point. But what is the culture? Like, do we apologize? Do we take ownership for the things we do? What do we tolerate? Just think living by that code is kindness. Like, I do you want to build a culture that teaches your students how to leave and be good humans and how to be emotionally intelligent and responsible for themselves? So that's kindness.
And that's important. So as simple as these things are, they become revolutionary when you're trying to bring them back into the classroom. So
Mhm.
that's what's so amazing. So what advice or encouragement would you give out to teachers?
I would tell teachers or share with teachers, continue giving your students exceptional technique to the best of your ability. Remember that it takes time for them to get great, and also remember that in educating them inside and spending the work on who they are as humans as well as on who you are as a human is crucial to just dance education. So that's what I would say. I would say think about ways you can expand your students' emotional intelligence and character development. That's as important as technique because if a student is up there and they could do 100 million turns and they can win all the awards, but they hate themselves on the inside
Yes.
and they can't take corrections and you're scared to tell them to work on something because it'll destroy them, then is this a technique really worth it? Right? We need both because I see dancers that are so beautiful, but they can't even take a correction without telling themselves they're not worthy. So how do we build them up so that they could be beautiful dancers and still be able to take corrections and not let it define their self-worth?
I love it. That's such great advice. And for those of you who would like to discuss more with Erin, you can definitely go to our website at udma.org,
Mhm.
see when she's presenting, run into one of her classrooms and be like, hey, I'm ready, I'm ready. She presents a wonderful seminar.
Thank you.
Erin, thank you so much for being with us today,
Thank
for taking
you.
the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us and to share time on our podcast. We are truly honored to have you here. So thank you.
I am so honored. Thank you. I love everything you are doing, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it.
I'm honored to have you. So thank you, everyone. And once again, thank you for joining us at Inside NDF. If you'd like to learn more about National Dance Foundation, please visit us at our website, which is nationaldancefoundation.org. And we will see you again next week. And in the meantime, as we always say, keep dancing.